think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Here we go. Welcome, ladies and gents. How's it going? The intersection of conservative ideas. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. My name is Paul, and that's what you're listening to. We're building a liberty machine here. One of the key components is just to give people the facts, the truth, and let them make up their minds for themselves. We got a great show for you. We're going to be talking once again with the author of a book. And we had this guy on a couple of weeks ago. Okay. His name is Doug Giles. All right. Now, if you don't know, he wrote this book called Would Jesus Vote for Trump? And it's a controversial title. And I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and it was a fantastic interview. It was really, really good. Matter of fact, I mean, I shared it with a lot of people that I'm close to, just because I wanted them to hear what this guy had to say, his thoughts on everything else. The title of the book is meant to be provocative, right? It's meant to, it's meant to make you want to say, okay, well, what exactly is he saying here? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Pierre Delecto, which is now Mitt Romney. Everybody's calling him Pierre now. He tweeted, the president announced this pretty unprecedented ceasefire that appears to be holding. Everybody talking about how we abandoned the Kurds, and yet you have this Kurdish general who's now very complimentary of what the president has done in Syria. Mitt Romney, of course, tweets, it's unconscionable that Turkey did what they did and there's no consequence. Well, there were consequences. There were economic sanctions. And now those sanctions are being pulled back. I mean, listen, is it a volatile situation? Yeah, because it's the Middle East. So, yes, it is a volatile situation. Who knows? Is anybody going to be surprised if war breaks out in the Middle East? Are we really going to be surprised about that? I was thinking about this last night. When it comes to President Trump, Syria, Turkey, now that we're pulling out, I kind of think that makes us stronger. And what I mean by that is obviously trying to end foreign entanglements, end foreign wars. But if we for some reason had to go back in, if there was something that happened and we needed to go bomb people back to the Stone Age, I got a feeling, with no troops in the area, that makes some of those folks on the ground a lot more nervous, especially the fact that President Trump has demonstrated that his finger is on the trigger of the American military. Case in point, when we were supposed to bomb Iran, remember that? We were supposed to bomb Iran when they shot down one of our unmanned drones. We had the attack planned, and the president called it off at the last minute because he was like, you know what, we're going to kill X amount of people. It's an unmanned drone. They didn't actually kill anybody, so I'm not going to kill anybody. The left doesn't know what to do with him, by the way, on his foreign policy. Again, Trump has stolen the Democrats' girlfriend on the issue of peace and foreign policy, and it is hilarious to watch. His speech yesterday, the president gave on Syria and Turkey and this buffer zone that they have, the ceasefire. To me, I really get the feeling. I was talking to a relative of mine, who's older than me, and he kind of had a different opinion on Syria and than I do. I'm glad that we're trying to end foreign wars. And, it's different perspectives, people who've lived different points in America. But from my standpoint, which technically I'm more of an Oregon Trail generation, which is this sub-generation of millennials, but I'm 35 years old. And if you look at it from my perspective, I mean, I remember I was in high school when we invaded Iraq. I remember September 11th and going into Afghanistan afterwards. Then I remember us invading Iraq, in 2003. And for people my age, we don't. I mean, what are we doing? You know, we've been over there for 19 years, right? And our military, let's just be honest, our military shouldn't be a police force. I think the president understands that. Our military should be in the business of killing the enemy as efficiently as possible and coming home. And what's crazy is we have the, superior technology to do that. So let's only do that when it's a just cause, instead of just putting our troops over there in harm's way and just sitting them there for whatever reason. But if it's not to efficiently kill the enemy, and I know there's some other things, but that should be the main one, isn't it? And again, I'm not a military guy. I have great respect for those who have served, but that's just me as a civilian. You know, as civilians, we still get a say. We still have an opinion when it comes to military action. So the fact that the president, I'm going to say this one more time, the fact that the president of the United States is making good on his campaign promise to end foreign wars in the Middle East that last forever is certainly a campaign promise that he's trying to keep. And it shows you that he's representing a vast majority of Americans on the left, center, and right, or at least the people who used to be who used to be anti-war on the left. Now, because it's Trump, they hate it, and they're all pro-war hawks now on the left. From what I can, what did I say? Something weird? Oh, telephone number 870-275-9799. Go ahead.
I said, say it louder for those in the back. It's like it's a thing that's been going around. Like when people are spouting something true that people like to just ignore, it's because they're in the back of the room and they don't know what's being said. Well, say it louder. For those in the back.
Is something that definitely needs to be talked about. There's no question.
But it's true, and people are ignoring it.
Now I tell you what else people are ignoring here locally in Arkansas, and that's the threat of communist China. Say it louder in the back. The threat of communist China.
Say it louder for those in the back.
ArkansasBusiness.com. Yesterday, Governor Asa Hutchinson and his economic development team, Arkansas Secretary of Commerce Mike Preston, they held a ribbon cutting ceremony for, Rise Ever. This is a Chinese company opening in Jonesboro. Supposed to begin operation sometime in January. Can you go to Arkansas Business real quick, Joe? I want to show this article. We're going to talk more about this coming up at 7, but I want to show this article real quick. Hi-Fi Rise Ever Machinery officials join state and local leaders. I wonder if did they contact the State Department? They joined state and local leaders. You're supposed to contact the State Department now if you're dealing with people who have connections with the Chinese government. Held a ribbon cutting Wednesday for its new $20 million, 125,000 square foot Jonesboro plant in the Craighead County or Craighead Technology Park. Quote, "This is a day of celebration and a remarkable occasion for Rise Ever," said General Manager Yong Gang Lai in a news release. "It also marks our start of trial production. We will remain consistent with our business plan, ensuring a $20.5 million investment. We will have welding, machinery, painting, 3D inspection equipment. Our goal is in 2020 to have the capacity to fabricate 6,000 tons of heavy steel per year." Of course, this project was announced 2 years ago by Governor Asa Hutchinson. He said this: "Rise Ever is one of several Chinese companies that are choosing to locate in Arkansas, thanks in large part to our skilled workforce and low business costs. Because foreign investment is vital to our state's economic health, we hope that other companies across the world will see the advantages Arkansas has to offer." Once again, this is not the first time the governor said this. In order for Arkansas's economy to be successful, foreign investment is vital, he says. There's another quote here from Mark Young. Mark Young, president of Jonesboro Unlimited. Quote, "Recruiting companies like Rise Ever is an essential part of our 5-year strategic plan to create 2,500 direct new high-paying jobs in Jonesboro. Listen to this. Last part of this article. Joe, scroll down. We are glad to see this family-owned company take this exciting step. Family-owned company. Okay. That's at the very end there. It's right there at the bottom. They can see it. So family-owned company. Okay. All right. Can you scroll back up to the top? I just want people to see what is this background? What does that background look like to you guys? For those of you who can't see this, it's a logo of the company's, or it's a picture of the company's logo on a big red tarp with yellow lettering. Do we have a better photo of this? Can you let's get this photo. Let's go full screen with this. This is actually what it looks like. Grand opening. Everybody calm down. You see, you got what is this? What is this? At least, I mean, they're not even being subtle about it. Come on, look at this. For those who can't see this, they're having this announcement yesterday with a backdrop that looks just like the communist flag of the Chinese government. I mean, you'd think they would at least try to put out like some sort of integration or assimilation, like we are assimilating in American culture. And it's like, look at that. I mean, it's red and yellow. I mean, it looks just like the communist flag of China. I mean, I think that's hilarious. I don't know about you guys. I mean, it's also like, I feel like we should call the FBI, but maybe that's just me. Yeah. I mean, anyway, it says grand opening, Rise Ever Machinery, LLC. And I mean, now the Rise Ever logo looks normal. You know, it doesn't look quite as nationalistic, Chinese nationalism. But when I look at that backdrop right there, I think Chinese nationalism. I don't know about you. Chinese communism is what I think. And I wonder, did anybody notice that at all? Like in the audience, was there anybody out there that was like looking around, kind of like, hang on, wait a second. What are we doing exactly here? Or is it all just about the money and jobs and we don't really care? Right? You know? And the idea of calling it a family-owned company, I think people are being deceived here. And that's just my opinion. You know, I could be wrong. But I really think that there's a deception going on. And I think there's some people who have been deceived. Let me know, what do you guys think about it? The telephone number, 870-275-9799. Let's talk more about this at the next hour. You want to, Joe? We'll talk more about the China thing in the next hour. I wouldn't trust the Chinese. I don't think it's I know everyone says, you know, no, Paul, it's about jobs. We want more jobs. Look. I mean, bring a company from Germany in here or something. I mean, you know, that's fine. Like, I'm not necessarily, I mean, I'm against the type of economic development typically where you give away a bunch of taxpayer money, but like, I'm going to lose that battle. I feel like we're going to lose that battle. I mean, we can talk about it. We can point out studies how it doesn't really work. Arkansas Center for Research and Economics has demonstrated that. But why not, you know, why not bring in an American company that's, you know, located somewhere else? That would be nice. And now we're going to look into Dubai and the, you know, United Arab Emirates. That sounds kind of weird too, but whatever. Anyway, let's stop for a second because, well, yeah, let's take a break for 1 minute, reset. Before we go to break, let me tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Folks, if you're a taxpayer or you're a business owner, we all know that the government rarely gives the people a break because big government politicians they seem to always be spending more of our money, and I mean, or they're, you know, giving it away to the communist Chinese so they can use our resources and send the profits back home. I don't know, you know. If you want to support the work that we're doing here, Conduit News, bringing you the truth, I would really suggest that you go to conduitforcommerce.org and consider giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business, limited government, less regulations. Go to conduitforcommerce.org. You just click the Support Our Cause button. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. It's conduitforcommerce.org. Wanting to be that conduit from the Capitol in Little Rock to the people. We'll be back in just a moment.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
And I have wanted to welcome back to Arkansas Chairman Chu. Please give Chairman Chu a round of applause.
China is also applying this power in more proactive ways than ever before to exert influence and interfere in the domestic policy and politics of this country.
Chairman Chu, I got to know as he is the CEO and chairman of Shandong Ruyi Technology Group out of Shandong Province.
Over the past 17 years, China's GDP has grown 9-fold. It's become the second largest economy in the world. Much of this success was driven by American investment in China.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, here we go. I've got a little bit more clarity on why the Democrats are pursuing impeachment. Are you ready? You want to know why? With whistleblowers that have second and third-hand information? You know why they don't want to pay attention to the transcript of the call? Go to this Twitter video, Joe. Here it is. If you want to know, this is Catherine Herridge from Fox News reporting yesterday. This, I feel like, is the reason why we have been on this roller coaster for the last 3-4 weeks. Listen. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. Now.
Latest from Washington, D.C. How did it start?
Well, Harris, this is literally one of these hot-off-the-press situations. I've just gotten a readout from the foreign desk and our correspondent, Amy Kellogg, who's based in Italy, and she reports that in the last few minutes, the Italian Prime Minister has testified to Parliament that he did permit the meeting with the Attorney General, with Italian intelligence on the subject of the Russia investigation, and he described this move as, quote, the correct decision, and that everything was arranged through proper diplomatic channels. The other piece of information we're getting from Italy is that these meetings occurred August 15th and September 27th in Rome. And that dovetails with some new information we've had here at Fox News, which is that during one of these trips, William Barr and U.S. Attorney John Durham gathered new evidence, and it was on that basis that they expanded the investigation into the origins of the FBI's 2016 Russia collusion case. And my contacts are reporting that Durham is, quote, very interested to question the former Director of National Intelligence, that's the nation's top spy chief, James Clapper, as well as the former CIA Director, John Brennan, who recently dismissed the idea.
So, there you go. You hear those dates? They met in August with Italy, and then they met at the end of September with Italy. And the intelligence community knows that they are in a very bad situation. And that is why we are in the situation we are right now, where Adam Schiff is literally conducting impeachment behind closed doors. We've got some documents that suggest, he tries to pre-interview witnesses to see what they're actually going to say before they say it. And then they're just selectively leaking things to the press. And the press is like, they've got Trump now. It was a quid pro quo. And then it's like, well, no, it wasn't. I mean, but there are millions of people that are listening to the, CNNs of the world, and they think we're going to get the president now. He really stepped in at this time. Oh, by the way, Babylon Bee, did you hear this? Hey, did you hear about this Babylon Bee article? This is a satire article, folks. Satire alert. Hillary Clinton accidentally posted condolences for the suicide of Tulsi Gabbard one day early. Yeah, it is with great sadness that I heard of Tulsi Gabbard's suicide this morning. She was a patriot and will be remembered. Rest in peace, my friend. Oops. A social media scheduling error apparently caused Hillary Clinton to post her condolences for Tulsi Gabbard's suicide one day early. Again, this is a satire piece from the Babylon Bee. This morning, Clinton posted that she felt great sadness at the hearing of Gabbard had killed herself. In subsequent tweets, she detailed how tragic it was that Gabbard had broken her own kneecaps, stuck her feet in concrete, then tossed herself off the docks near a seedy warehouse. It's just terrible what happened, and though we disagreed, I hope we can all take a few minutes to send thoughts and prayers to the family, Clinton concluded. The post was then deleted several hours later after the Clinton team realized it was scheduled for October 23rd, not October 24th, as originally intended. So I found this on there. I went to another article at the Babylon Bee as a result of this. The Babylon Bee is killing it. I mean, they're bringing it with this satire the last couple of weeks. A biological male raced a bunch of women, and you won't believe what happened next. Wow, this biological male raced a bunch of women on her bike, and you won't believe what happened. The inspiring tale began when Rachel McKinnon, a biological male and self-described transgender woman, went to race against biological women. While you'd expect that the competition would be even, since men and women are the same, and in no way are there any biological differences between the two genders, this wasn't the case. What happened next will shock you. McKinnon crushed all of them. They didn't stand a chance. It was almost like she had a biological advantage, but we had to rule that out from the start because it disagrees with transgender ideology. So instead, it must just be her human spirit and dedication that caused her to win against the other women. You go, girl. Next, Babylon Bee. Man identifying as 6-year-old crushes game-winning homer in T-ball championship. A local 36-year-old man from Auburn, California, named Nate Ripley, who identifies as a 6-year-old, absolutely crushed a game-winning homer at a local T-ball game and won the championship for his team Monday evening. Ripley reportedly walked up to the plate in the bottom of the 6th, pointing his bat toward the left field wall looming at 130 feet in distance, and let her rip, sending the ball rocketing over the fence and into the parking lot as fans cheered and the coach yelled, "Attaboy, Nate. Good job, buddy." His team, the Little Padres, attempted to hoist him up on their shoulders, but they had trouble because he weighs 230 pounds. Ripley's feat comes at the end of a momentous T-ball season in which the self-identified 6-year-old absolutely shattered every record set prior to that point, with a 1,000% batting average, 52 home runs, and an incredible showing at first base, second base, shortstop, third base, and pitcher. The man is being called an inspiration to other 6-year-olds everywhere. Again, this is a piece of satire by the Babylon Bee, but it's not that far off, because here's a real piece of news. According to the Daily Wire, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is now going to step in and try to help the 7-year-old James Younger, whose mom is making him dress up like a girl, and maybe even she just won a court case in front of a jury, and she might even start this child on hormone blockers. I know, it's absolutely terrifying. So this was the tweet. Greg Abbott, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas. FYI, the matter of 7-year-old James Younger is being looked into by the Texas Attorney General's Office and the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. With a consent, I mean, this is unbelievable. We covered this story with Luke McCoy of Arkansas's Family Council on Tuesday. So we've covered this story briefly. That's up at conduitnews.com and as well as the YouTube channel if you guys want to go watch that video. But there are other folks. You've got Republican State Representative of Texas Matt Krause said Wednesday he will introduce legislation that prohibits the use of puberty blockers in these situations. Quote, absent a special session between now and the 87th session, I will introduce legislation that prohibits the use of puberty blockers in these situations for children under 18. You know what? Arkansas needs to be right on top of this as well. We need to pass a law that's just the same.
And the Chinese Communist Party has also used an arsenal of policies inconsistent with free and fair trade, including tariffs, quotas, currency manipulation, forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and industrial subsidies that are handed out like candy to foreign investment.
We've been to Shandong province a number of times since I've been governor. We've called on people, and Chairman Chu gave us the opportunity to meet with him at Ruyi, at their technology group there in Shandong, and saw his incredible facility. We asked him to visit Arkansas. He did. So Chairman Chu, we're delighted to have you here. I'm excited about signing this agreement with you, and I welcome you to Arkansas.
These policies have built Beijing's manufacturing base at the expense of its competitors, especially the United States of America.
And I wanted to recognize Chairman Li to my right, who is the founder of Sun Paper of Shandong province in China. I also want to recognize Secretary Ma of Shandong province.
As President Trump said just this week, in his words, we rebuilt China over the last 25 years.
Last November, as you know, I traveled to Shandong province. I met with Chairman Li. I toured Sun Paper Company along with Mike Preston. While in China, we signed a letter of intent on behalf of the state of Arkansas with Sun Paper, indicating that Sun Paper wanted to put a major bioproducts mill in South Arkansas,
The Communist Party has set its sights on controlling 90% of the world's most advanced industries, including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Li and I met yesterday. Chairman Li indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Telephone number 870-275-9799. That's the phone number if you want to contribute to the conversation today. You can call or text. Thanks for starting the beginning of your day with us here. I want to talk once again to the founder and editor of ClashDaily.com, also co-author of the new book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? His name is Doug Giles. He joins us again. Doug, how are you, sir?
Paul, what's shaking, big dog?
Man, not a whole lot. I do have this story here about Mitt Romney. This is from The Atlantic. You know, this is a few days ago. This is where we learned about his alter ego on Twitter. And the headline here, The Liberation of Mitt Romney. It's one of these examples of the left loving to celebrate a Republican if they'll criticize other Republicans. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, if your listeners don't know by now, and I don't know how they could not know, that Mitt Romney is flying under the handle on Twitter as Pierre Delecto, man. And Paul, to me, that's a weird revelation. You know, in the article in the Atlantic, that's stumping for Mitt Romney, and like you said, you know, making him appear as the sane adult, you know, Republican in the room. We get the revelation that he's flying under Pierre Delecto on Twitter, and he's routinely liking columns that hate Trump and praises him. Bro, that's a sneak peek into a whirring tin brain of narcissism. And I'd like to tell Mitt, if he's listening to us right now, that everything that you are, that we just found out about you, that we held our nose to vote for you against Obama in 2012, is why there's people like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, because we're sick of self-preening politicians like you, Mittens.
Mittens. And that's the thing. If you go and look at what this alter ego, this Pierre Delecto has liked, if there's a mainstream media reporter who is critical of Mitt Romney, which that does still happen, he would respond under Pierre Delecto and be like, well, Mitt Romney, he's awesome. You got to remember, he's awesome. And, you just get this feeling. It's like, wow. I mean, I think as a society, and we don't get this often enough, obviously, but we can generally agree that we want our politicians to actually tell us what they think and not, hide what they think behind closed doors, right?
Right. It's so bizarre, man. I mean, I feel like I got to watch like a Disney movie it's just creepy. How old is he? He's like 70 plus, something like that. And that's like teenage, antics. To me, it's something that, I've been out there in the public eye for, going on 30 years, 260 million page views over at Clash Daily, 4 bestsellers. I get criticized all the time, and you know what? I don't lurk around. That's what Romney said that he did on Twitter, under pseudonyms, defending myself or critiquing my critics. I don't care. And you'd think some cat like him at this stage of life, that he wouldn't do it. And if he did do it, he would do it, as Mitt Romney instead of the evil chef at Trattoria Lucina, Pierre Delecto.
Hey, talk a little bit about Clash Daily and how you got started, in creating this successful website.
Yeah, so it started in 2012, July 2012, a couple months after Andrew Breitbart died, and Andrew and I were buddies. We got thrown together when my daughter Hannah destroyed Acorn, and so that was a tumultuous time period. And, I'm sitting there thinking, you know what, Andrew, he really touched a lot of people through his big government site. That's what it was before it was Breitbart.com. So I was doing a speaking engagement, some television interviews in Atlanta, Georgia, and the guy who owned the parent company that was called at that time Liberty Alliance, he heard my shtick and he said, "Man," he goes, "let's do a website. I think it would take off." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Let's throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what happens." Like I said earlier, that was 260 million page views ago, so it really took off. Facebook attacked us. October 11th, 2018, we had 2 million followers, Paul, 2 million, wow. Which, again, it's not, Kardashian numbers, but it's not bad for an ex-drug dealer from West Texas who's just trying to, salvage God and country and traditional values in the United States of liberal acrimony. And we had 20 million to 50 million people that we were reaching per week. I mean, we're killing it, just absolutely killing it. And they're like, you're posting fake news. Like, what's fake about it? You just don't like it, and it's hilarious. And yeah. and it destroys all your dainty little leftists and their vapid ideas that have been tried and found wanting. And then they said we had fake accounts. I was blue check verified. We had to do a double 6-digit password login before we could even get to our business account. Total bull crap. No appeal process whatsoever, and but yeah, that's the left, man. If you don't drink their Kool-Aid, then you know what? You can't play their game. And listen, I get Zuckerberg not liking me. I don't like me a lot of times. But you look at the way that they've knocked Franklin Graham and other people, just completely squelching their reach. And then that zombie-looking weirdo from Mars can sit in front of Congress and tell them, "Oh no, we don't suppress ideas or speech. That's a load of garbage." And last person to leave Facebook, bring the American flag. Actually, Paul, I feel relieved when I finally got off Facebook. It was like dating that psycho chick Glenn Close from Fatal Attraction. Always pulling knives on me.
I love it. That's fantastic. Now, on the censorship of conservatives online, are you worried at all about what they're going to attempt to do with the 2020 elections, just completely? Because they believe that it was, quote, fake news, and that's why the president won. That's why Trump won. But I mean, honestly, what it was an open free exchange of ideas, and we have their internal memos where they say, you know what, we can't have this much freedom on the internet. We have to have a civil, decent discourse, is what they claim. Are you worried at all about what they might do in 2020?
Oh, absolutely. Again, they started as soon as Trump got behind that desk where Bill boinked Monica, they started ratcheting down our reach. And I mean, you can see it, Paul. I mean, we were screaming. I mean, just and we never changed anything. Didn't change our writers. Didn't change our style. Pro God and country, Judeo-Christian worldview, Mad Magazine, attitude on steroids. We love God, and we'll fight enemies, foreign and Democratic. And once Trump got in the White House, Paul, all of a sudden you start seeing our numbers just starting to go slower and slower. April 2017, boom, here comes the big algorithm change. You can't do any tisk stuff against the left or be pro-Trump. And then, man, October 11, 2018, that's when, like I said, Mark opened the bomb doors of the Enola Gay and let 500 very powerful conservative sites have it. And so I think it's desperation time, and desperate people, you never want to go in and try to deal with them because they're coming at you with razor blades and lemon juice. So I think it's going to get bad. Some people are going to lose all their traffic. And the thing that we did that was wise is that we constantly built our mailing list. And if you're a publisher, if you're a conservative, if you're out there and you got a voice and you're not going to take the left's crap, man, I hope you have a big mailing list. Because if you're wholly dependent on a platform like Facebook for your traffic, man, you're remodeling a house that somebody else owns, and they can take it from you at any time.
Yeah.
So, we have stonking mailing lists of 400,000 people, good emails, active emails. So yeah, we took a hit, but we're still doing. We're not doing the 10 million page views per month, but we're still in there from around 500 to 700,000 a month, which most people would kill for.
Yeah,
so,
of course, absolutely.
But I think here's what I think. Here's my prognostication, and I've been known to have a very cloudy crystal ball. I think the pendulum's going to swing back. I think that there's going to be an alternative that Trump's going to have a hand in. He's not going to be the direct. Because he can't, but I think he's going to kind of give a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to some coders and some billionaire conservatives that are bringing a competitive platform against Facebook and Twitter that's friendly to this thing called freedom of speech.
I hope that's the case. I really do, because the alternative is government regulation, which I'm always really hesitant to embrace, but I have described it because I mean the amount of power that they have, Facebook and Twitter, to me would be the equivalent of, back before the internet, if you were, let's say you're driving down the road and you see some people with picket signs on the corner and you become aware that there's an issue, whatever are on the signs, you're like, oh, there's people that are upset about something and they're protesting. Oh, okay. Imagine if somebody had the ability, as you're driving down the road, just to make them disappear, to mute them, to where you can't even see them at all. Nobody would want somebody to have that kind of power. And so, what's a public sidewalk? Is the internet now the public sidewalk? I mean, these are issues that I'm asking. I don't really know what the answer is, but it certainly is a question of our time.
Yeah, I'm with you on the regulatory stuff. My buddies who, again, we're talking, the loss of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. If people think, well, that's interesting, they do a little blogging. No, we were killing it financially. And a lot of these publishers, I mean, we're talking, again, 6 figures, 7 figures, depending on, the size of your page. Not bad money to be made sitting in pajamas. So a lot of those guys and girls were like, we got to sue them. We got to get the government to break them up. It's like, first of all, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't think you're going to win. They probably get sued every 20 seconds. In regards to the regulatory antitrust type stuff, I'm not a fan, man. I'd rather see the, competition. I'd rather see somebody take them out, saw them off at the knees with something slicker, more creative, and again, more friendly to our constitutional rights.
Yeah,
but you you look at what I say. Things are going back to bars and churches, man, where people press flesh, talk ideas. Paul, I can't tell you, man, how happy I was to get off damn Facebook. I mean, I saw Breitbart, right before he passed away. He's probably sleeping, 1 or 2 hours a night because of the constant online wars on Facebook and in particular Twitter. And I don't want to live on a stupid social media platform. And I encourage everybody, save yourself from Facebook and Instagram. We can walk away from these morons.
Yeah. One time I heard Andrew Breitbart. I was in Minneapolis for a convention, and he said this was a long time ago, maybe almost 10 years ago. He said, if we can't sell liberty and freedom, we suck. And I that's always stuck with me about, that's what, the right is actually promoting. We're promoting this idea of liberty and freedom and the rights of the individual. And, he was right then, and I think he's right now.
Well, in my book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump, everybody's like, how can you support, as a Christian, Donald Trump because he's so mouthy and he's so brash? I was like, have you not even given Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John a cursory glance? Because if you reeked of lies, hype, and spin, if you wanted to oppress people, whether you're a politician or a priest back in Jesus' day, man, he's going to publicly put you in his Jesus Holy Ghost wood chipper and expose you in front of people. If you do something stupid at a dinner party and Jesus is there and you say something that's bogus, that again is oppressive, it's something that is ridiculous to God and common sense, then you're gonna see Jesus get up in your grill. And the thing that I dig about Trump is, a lot of Christians are like, well, he's just being, too mean, and he just says these things that are too untoward. It's like, and you know who likes it? Half the country, because we're tired of being told that we suck, that our ideas are horrible, that America's a bad country, that Christianity's, just this thing for buckle-shoed, three-teeth, IQ of 50 killjoys, and Trump's standing up for all of it. And that's what biblical leaders do, But Christians have been effeminized, man. I'm telling you. And pastors are the worst, just telling nice little stories. Listen, courage, confidence, boldness, to speak truth to power, those are all characteristics of Jesus. And he was a 30-year-old rebel that kicked up dust on the mean streets in the Middle East, and they killed him for his mouth. Never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, and he changed the world, too. Even by secular standards. The world was one way before he was here and completely different afterwards. Doug Giles, we appreciate it, sir. Again, your website, classdaily.com, your book, co-author of the book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? It's always great to have you on, sir. I really appreciate it, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, buddy. Stay ready, Paul.
All righty, folks, we're going to take a break. Going to be right here, back here in just a minute, and don't go anywhere.
It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms to gain ownership of their creations. Worst of all, Chinese security agencies have masterminded the wholesale theft of American technology, including cutting-edge military blueprints. And using that stolen technology, the Chinese Communist Party is turning plowshares into swords on a massive scale.
Well, thank you all for joining us via Skype from Beijing this morning. Here in Beijing, it is 10 p.m. in the evening. I've had a very successful trip to China.
China now spends as much on its military as the rest of Asia combined. And Beijing has prioritized capabilities to erode America's military advantages on land, at sea, in the air, and in space.
I've spoken at Tsinghua University here in Beijing, which was a treat for me to speak with young Chinese students about Arkansas, and also to talk about the relationship between China and the United States.
China wants nothing less than to push the United States of America from the Western Pacific and attempt to prevent us from coming to the aid of our allies. but they will fail. Beijing is also using its power like never before. Chinese ships routinely patrol around the Senkaku Islands, which are administered by Japan. And while China's leader stood in the Rose Garden at the White House in 2015 and said that his country had...
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure the life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody. Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so next hour, 7:05, we're going to be going back over the announcement yesterday, the ribbon cutting of the Chinese company that'll be opening in northeast Arkansas. Of course, Arkansas has 6 Chinese deals with the Communist Party, trying to bring their businesses or these, quote, companies into the United States. Our higher-ups in Arkansas still feel the need to do this, even though some of them are kind of stalled out because of Donald Trump, thank goodness. Yet there's all the warning signs in the world to not continue to embrace the Chinese, the Communist Party here in Arkansas, and yet we are. This is what we're doing. And it's very, very frustrating considering the FBI having open investigations in all 50 states, considering down in Stuttgart. By the way, I was in Stuttgart on Tuesday night, talking to the Arkansas County Republican Committee. Down in Stuttgart, they had 2 Chinese nationals indicted for stealing rice technology, meaning grains and a certain type of rice that had been, there's a lot of money spent on developing that type of stuff. And we just completely ignored it and continue to do business. And we're told that it's vital, that Arkansas's economy is vital. We have to have foreign investment in order to get the economy that we want. And I'm sorry, I just reject that. I reject that. I think we need to treat all businesses, local businesses, with more respect, lower taxes, lower the regulations, instead of giving all these taxpayer dollars to these big businesses, especially, if you're going to give it to a big business, okay, why China? And why is it that we don't have more people in the media asking questions about who stands to really benefit economically, financially, monetarily from doing business with the Communist Chinese? Because if the Communist Chinese go into Cuba, right? That's that's what I learned about our foreign policy when Obama was president, is that you have to pronounce the names of countries right to make people feel better. So you can't say Cuba, you have to say Cuba or Chile or Pakistan, or whatever. That was our foreign policy essentially when Obama was president. Now our foreign policy is actually bringing our troops home. Well, wouldn't you? But anyway, the Chinese go into Cuba, and if they're going to exploit them, the first thing they do is they buy off the politicians. The Chinese go into Mozambique. They're going to bribe the politicians before they do anything, right? or Zimbabwe. Man, the Chinese love those minerals in the soil in Zimbabwe. They love those elements, those rare. They're going after Zimbabwe. They pay off the politicians first. That's what they do. So if they do that in every other scenario, South America as well, why would we expect them to treat Arkansas any different in light of what we're seeing with Hunter Biden in the Ukraine, in light of what we're seeing with the children of politicians when it comes to China? Why would they treat Arkansas any different? I mean, it's a fair question at this point. It really is. I mean, considering the fact that all of the companies that Arkansas is attempting to do business with, if you can even call it that, they're from a province in China called the Shandong province, or the Shandong province. There is another company in the Shandong province. Joe. There's another company in the Shandong province named Carter Heavy Industries. Did you know this? And Carter Heavy Industries is the name in the email for Hillary Clinton's private server. So Hillary Clinton's private server was forwarding all of her emails to a Gmail address called Carter Heavy Industries at gmail.com. Carter Heavy Industries is a company in China in the Shandong province. These other companies that we're doing business with or attempting to do business with, in spite of the Trump administration's warnings, in spite of Congressman Rick Crawford of Arkansas's warnings that we can't trust the Chinese, that it's a Trojan horse. He sits on the Intelligence Committee, by the way, and they are completely ignoring Congressman Rick Crawford's public statements on the dangers of doing business with the Communist Chinese Party directly in Arkansas. They are completely ignoring his objections. They're completely ignoring who he sits on the Intelligence Committee, right? And they just completely ignore it because of what? There's only one reason: money, period. They're ignoring it because of money, or they're ignoring it because they don't like Trump. They don't like what he's doing with China. They don't like how he's trying to put America first and stand up and stop China's 100-year plan to supplant the United States of America. If these were Russian companies that we were doing business with, everybody would be losing their minds, and maybe rightly so, right? Because Vladimir Putin's not some benign person. No one's ever argued that. I mean, we can be suspicious of Russia and still not believe in the whole Russia collusion hoax, because that's what it was. It was a hoax. Anyway, I'm telling you, man, I think this is one of the most underreported stories in the state and also the nation. The fact that you have Republican Congressman Rick Crawford, who sits on the Intelligence Committee, coming out and publicly saying we need to be careful, that's a Trojan horse, that we can't trust the Chinese, we don't need to be doing business, and a sitting Republican governor and the Arkansas Secretary of Commerce saying, nope, we're going full steam ahead with China. We don't care. We don't care that they have terrible human rights violations. By the way, did anybody ask Asa if he supports a free Hong Kong? Because if he says yes, apparently, we know what would happen then. My goodness, they would leave the country voluntarily if Asa came out for and supported a free Hong Kong. I mean, the way they're tearing down giant posters in tearing down the giant posters of the NBA players in China because they're snowflakes and they were triggered by American independence and freedom. Is America independent anymore? Our corporations certainly aren't. Why? Because of money. That's why. Right? We're willing to do business with the communist Chinese that keep dissidents alive, keep their organs oxygenated while you can sell heart transplants to wealthy global elites. We're willing to do business with them. We're willing to ignore all of those human rights violations because maybe they'll come and revitalize our factories and create jobs. Not me. Not me. Yeah, I'm definitely claiming the moral high ground on this one. I'm sorry, guys. I just am. And we're going to talk more about this when we come back. But that banner that they stood in front of yesterday in Jonesboro for this ribbon cutting, it looked like the Communist Chinese flag.
I quote, no intention to militarize the South
KBTM, Jonesboro.
Today, Beijing has deployed advanced anti-ship and anti-air missiles atop an archipelago of military bases constructed on artificial islands. China's aggression was on display this week when a Chinese naval vessel came within 45 yards of the USS Decatur as it conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, forcing our ship to quickly maneuver to avoid collision. Despite such reckless harassment, the United States Navy will continue to fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows and our national interests demand. We will not be intimidated, and we will not stand down.
And we'll be calling on multiple prospects in China, as well as continuing our relationship with Sun Paper in Shandong province.
In recent years, China has taken a sharp U-turn toward control and oppression of its own people. Today, China has built an unparalleled surveillance state, and it's growing more expansive and intrusive, often with the help of U.S. technology. And when it comes to religious freedom, a new wave of persecution is crashing down on Chinese Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims. Last month, Beijing shut down one of China's largest underground churches. Across the country, authorities are tearing down crosses, burning Bibles, and imprisoning believers. And Beijing has now reached a deal with the Vatican that gives the avowedly atheist Communist Party a direct role in appointing Catholic bishops. For China's Christians, these are desperate times.
So, do you like him as a candidate?
I think he's brought a lot to the table. It's not my message. You know, I worry about the party in terms of expanding our base and what the message does to our recruitment of Hispanics, outreach to minorities. And so you've got to worry about the fall election and whether this is a message that's going to carry in Michigan, Ohio, and Florida, and those states that we need to carry.
The American people deserve to know. In response to the strong stand that President Trump has taken, Beijing is pursuing a comprehensive and coordinated campaign to undermine support for the president, our agenda, and our nation's most cherished ideals.
I think you've got to listen to what he says and how he conducts himself. And I don't know that he would be that different from what he is now in negotiating with Vladimir Putin. So,
you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a good thing. You know, we need people who, in the presidency, that understand how the world works, understands that there's a time for bluster and there's a time for reason.
The Chinese Communist Party is rewarding or coercing American businesses, movie studios, universities, think tanks, scholars, journalists, and local, state, and federal officials.
And then, Chairman, you'll look out in the audience and you'll see multiple members of the governor's cabinet. We're also here to support you. You'll see multiple members of the state legislative assembly. They're here to support you, and specifically Senator Caldwell, Senator Ingram, Representative Murdoch, Representative Hollowell. These are your senators and your representatives now. You call on them, and they're going to help you. Guarantee it. And Senator English, I saw you out there too. Thank you for being here as well.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States. I quote, no intention to militarize the South China Sea. Today, Beijing has deployed advanced anti-ship and anti-air missiles atop an archipelago of military bases constructed on artificial islands. China's aggression was on display this week when a Chinese naval vessel came within 45 yards of the USS Decatur as it conducted freedom of navigation.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Here we go. Welcome to the program. Yesterday, Governor Asa Hutchinson, by the way, at the bottom of this hour, we're going to be talking with Larry Walker for Citizens for a Better Pope County about the Pope County Casino. I talked a little bit about it on Monday or Tuesday, how they attempted to undo this ordinance to Johnny sweep the legs, the courts, essentially, and try to stop what I believe is an inevitable ruling against Pope County. I think they have to have a vote. I think they have to have a separate vote, the way the ordinance says, if they to decide whether or not they want to have a casino. Oh, by the way, I read in the Dallas Morning News that Jerry Jones is now partnering with the Cherokee Nation to try to get this Pope County Casino across the finish line. Interesting. We'll talk to Larry Walker coming up here at 7:33. Yesterday, Governor Asa Hutchinson was in Jonesboro for the ribbon cutting / grand opening of a Chinese company called Rise Ever. Quote, "We are thrilled that Rise Ever plan is in production. It's one of several Chinese companies that are choosing to locate in Arkansas thanks in large part to our skilled workforce and low business costs. It's a 125,000 square foot plant, should be fully operational by January of 2020. Let's see. The full name of Rise Ever is it, what is that? Is it Hi-Fi or Hefi? Hefi Rise Ever? Hefe? Hefei Rise Ever Machinery. Chinese-based heavy equipment parts manufacturer. Arkansas Business had a quote from Jonesboro Unlimited president who said, "It's a family-owned company. We're thrilled to welcome a family-owned business here." I wonder why they feel the need to say that. It's a family-owned company. Well, you know, as long as the Communist Chinese Party allows their family to live, I guess it's a family-owned company. Isn't that right, Joe? I mean, as long as the family-owned company has, sticks to that one-child policy, it's a family-owned company. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see here. They're in the process of hiring employees. Oh, what else? Oh, yeah. Here's a photo. Will you show the photo of Asa? Go to the Arkansas Business article, Joe. We did this last hour, but I want you to show the article of Asa, the Arkansas Business, just one more time, because we got people who are listening who are watching the live stream who were not up at 6, believe it or not. So here it is. This was them cutting the ribbon. This is how people do things now. They got to have everybody out there on stage, and they're cutting this ribbon. Okay, now look at that backdrop there. What does that backdrop look like to you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, let's get the people off the stage. So you see Asa standing next to Arkansas Secretary of Commerce Mike Preston. You see him right there, and then you've got I'm assuming that's the Chinese owner of the company. Then you got the mayor, you got the county judge. Now let's see, what does it actually look like? What is that word in there? That's what it actually looked like, folks. Now, what does that look like to you? That is a giant red banner they're standing in front of with yellow lettering saying grand opening, rise ever machinery. I mean, it looks just like the communist Chinese flag of China. I mean, there's not even, my question is, was there anybody in that audience that was like, I don't know about this? Anybody at all? Or is it just jobs and dollar signs? Folks, you don't even have to take my word for it. Just do a little research, right? I mean, the FBI is having meetings with university presidents all over the nation, warning them. The FBI director called heads of universities naive because they don't really know what's going on. I think our politicians at the top who are in charge of doing all these communist Chinese deals, I think they are naive at the very least, if not complicit, which is actually a whole other set of questions if that's the case. But grand opening, and this by the way, Jonesboro's my hometown. Okay, so this happened in my hometown. Grand opening, Rise Ever Machinery LLC, and you know what? I'm sure there are people. I mean, if this actually happens, and the jobs are created like they said, I'm sure there'll be people who are happy to have a job that otherwise maybe don't have one right now, if that's actually the case, which a lot of times this is just, shuffling the deck. You got somebody who's already working at one factory that's going to go work at this new factory, get a higher wage because it's subsidized. And if that's the case, the job actually hasn't been created. Now, the government would claim that a job's created, but that's not the case. But let's just stick to the fact that Congressman Rick Crawford has said on multiple occasions that this is a big deal, that this is a problem. This is a huge problem. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull up. I want to read for you some of Rick Crawford, Congressman Crawford. He's been on my program several times. Back on October 11th? Yeah. Well, no, I see this. Yeah, this is actually the YouTube video. He was on then. In our YouTube video was essentially Rick Crawford warns against trusting China. We do have an actual news article, though, as well, where he called this idea of he called this idea Trojan horse. Now, I mean, those are strong words. Yesterday we kind of gamed that out for you. What was the Trojan horse? What was that all about? Then we have September 30th, headline, Representative Crawford. This is from Talk Business and Politics. Representative Crawford dubious of Chinese investments in the United States and in Arkansas. Okay? Quote, I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I'm not trying to throw cold water on economic development. In fact, I'm all for economic development. I think we ought to be looking at ways that we can grow our own and capitalize our own ability here to pull ourselves by our own bootstraps. We mentioned the issue in Forest City. I think it's important that we do invest in our ability to create value in the supply chain, particularly with regard to cotton, because I have questions about whether or not we're going to be able to sustain cotton production in the United States if we don't have vertical integration. He goes on to say, we lost our textile industry some years back as a result of the World Trade Organization. It was a ruling of the World Trade Organization. So as the American cotton industry is struggling with how we're going to sustain production here, the answer is not to bring in Chinese investment and give over everything we have in the hopes that the Chinese are going to be fair and deal in good faith with us. Because the answer to that is no, they're not. They're not here to help us. You cannot trust the Chinese in this regard. It's one thing to trade with them internationally, like for them to buy soybeans and us, or to export soybeans or what have you. It's an entirely different concept. And again, what if these were Russian companies? What if Russia was, quote, investing in Arkansas? People would have a problem with that, right? So why is China somehow acceptable? why do we look at this as, and there are some in the media that would tell you the reason China is acceptable is because the Marxist left looks at China as a successful communist regime. Because the left used to be fans of the Soviet Union. Before the Soviet Union fell, and now Vladimir Putin has rejected the traditional, communism that, oppressed the people. I mean, I'm not saying Vladimir Putin is benign or is some, but you get what I'm saying? Like, he has done away with a lot of that and is more just, okay, I'm a dictator that's going to look out for Russia. They loved the Soviet Union, though. The media loved the Soviet Union because it was chalkboard communism and Marxism, and it was supposed to work. And technically, that's still what's going on right now in China, right? China has not fallen. Yes, China's killing their own people. Yes, China's trying to oppress Hong Kong and take away what freedoms they have left. Yeah, they're doing all of that, but they're communists, and it's working out for them. Now, why is it working out for them? Well, the reason it's working out for them, folks, is because we let them in the market. We let them in the capitalist club. We thought, oh, we'll let Chinese in and they'll become more free, and that hasn't happened. They've been more oppressive. And now we're becoming more like China. We're becoming more like China. I also got to wonder and have to ask, I wonder what the attitude around the governor's office has been over the last 2 weeks, knowing that they were about to have this ribbon-cutting ceremony with the communist Chinese. What's the attitude been like the last couple of weeks when we discovered that the NBA are more loyal to the ideals of communism because of money than they are to the ideas of freedom of speech and better practice, good good versus first of all, there's no country that's perfect, but I'm willing to say, yeah, we're not hooking our citizens up to machines that keep their organs alive and then selling them to global elites. Israel has banned travel to China for medical procedures because people were scheduling their heart transplants. So yeah, good versus evil, that's a good comparison here. It is. And we find out that for $1, the NBA goes into these convulsions over one of their general managers tweeting support for Hong Kong. I wonder, what was the attitude like among the higher-ups in the Hutchinson administration as they're seeing this corporate greed diminish the freedoms that this country stands for, or is supposed to stand for. As you see those Hong Kong protesters waving the American flag, because we're at least still known for these ideas that American flag stands for, freedom, right to privacy, freedom of speech, freedom to worship, freedom to not be kidnapped in the night and have your baby murdered because of the one-child policy. Those type of things. And the NBA and others, Hollywood. We now figure out that the Chinese government has infiltrated our corporations, Silicon Valley, Google working with China to further enslave their citizens. And here's Arkansas on this little date, October 23rd. We're scheduled to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a Chinese factory going to open up. And it's a family-owned business. I mean, come on. How naive do you have to be? These are not investors. They're not normal investors. They're acting like investors. They only have freedom because the communist government allows them to have freedom. You know how I know that? Because they don't even send their students over here without setting up Confucius Institutes at universities. And those Confucius Institutes monitor the Chinese nationals to make sure they don't become Americanized and integrated. And speaking of not integrating, yesterday, one more time, let's show this image. They're not even trying to show some sort of assimilation. Because look at this flag. I mean, this is the image, the grand opening, Rise Ever Machinery. And, I mean, it's clearly a conscious, not even subconscious, it is clearly a conscious decision to have that specific color scheme that is a red background with big yellow lettering. Those are the patriotic colors of the Chinese government. So, I mean, let's just not beat around the bush about what's actually going on here. Okay? Maybe the governor is right, and we have to have foreign investment in order for Arkansas's economy to survive. I mean, that's what he said. That foreign investment is vital to sustaining Arkansas's economy. Okay, all right, maybe you're right. Maybe he's right. Does it have to be the country that's stealing from us and wanting to supplant us from the world as the lone superpower, as the biggest superpower, is the people that, I mean, does it have to be China? And I mean, the answer is no, it doesn't, but it is for some reason. Why is that? Sound off on Facebook. I want to hear what you have to say. Facebook.com/Conduit News. That's Facebook.com/Conduit News. We're going to talk Pope County coming up at 7:33. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back here in just a moment.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
And I have wanted to welcome back to Arkansas Chairman Chu. Please give Chairman Chu a round of applause.
China is also applying this power in more proactive ways than ever before to exert influence and interfere in the domestic policy and politics of this country.
Chairman Chu, I got to know as he is the CEO and chairman of Shandong Ruyi Technology Group out of Shandong Province.
Over the past 17 years, China's GDP has grown 9-fold. It's become the second largest economy in the world. Much of this success was driven by American investment in China. And the Chinese Communist Party has also used an arsenal of policies inconsistent with
money, power, prestige, essence, available now from aristocrats serving Arkansas. From the Nata Rhino collection, the fragrance of backroom deals, nepotism, the aroma of higher taxes, subliminal deception, deep state, made right here in Arkansas by a taxpayer-funded Chinese factory. Every bottle carefully crafted for you. Gender neutral. Nothing says aristocrat like Essence of Bureaucrat. Essence of Bureaucrat by Asa.
Available now in the Marble Palace gift shop.
Paul Harrell parody. bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Give your skeptical comments. Gene on Facebook, watching on the Facebook Live. Hunter Biden got $1.5 billion from the Chi-Coms. What are Arkansas politicians getting? Gene, that's a good question. Reggie, I would like to know if the Chinese company prospered any amount of money in the deal, because all I see at the proposed is raw land in Arkadelphia/Gum Springs. Oh, that deal's on hold. I mean, from what I can tell, Reggie, down in Chinadelphia. I'm sorry, Arkadelphia. Let me see. I've got some more quotes here. Jackie on Facebook. I'm disgusted, outraged. Any Arkansas politician that went along with this should be tarred and feathered. Do you really think the Chinese treat their employees fairly? That's interesting. Mark, wait till they hoist the Chinese flag on a pole next to it. It's coming. Now, that would be interesting. That would be outrageous. I wonder if that happened, if the average person would care at all. What do you think, Joe? Like if Rise Ever at their factory grounds, like if they had flagpoles and they just put the Chinese flag up there. I mean, even if they put it up there with the American flag. Like, I wonder if anybody would be like, well, just like, I mean, it's amazing what happened. It's amazing how the average person will just go along with whatever somebody in a position of power or authority, like a governor, says. You know, it's like people they want so willingly to just be like, oh yeah, this is a good thing because we're told it's good. But is there any critical thinking going on out there?
Do you know what countries usually do when they go to somewhere new or somewhere that they want to conquer or claim as their own? They typically put the flag down first.
That's a good point. They build a really giant badger. Yeah, it's a Trojan horse. Yeah. Jackie, did you see what LeBron James did last night, disrespecting the American flag? Bet he doesn't do that to the Chinese flag. No NBA or Nike products as Christmas gifts for years to come. Well, yeah, there's a video of LeBron James disrespecting the anthem. They were kind of like the crescendo and the home of the, and like before they got to the brave part, he walked away from his teammates that were standing there with their hands behind the back and yelled "Let's go" or something and ripped off his jersey or whatever. So a lot of people were taking offense to that. Of course, the man's under a microscope right now because apparently he's more loyal to the Chinese government than he is to the people. And Kenneth on Facebook, we are being sold out by crony capitalist rhinos. And Reggie on Facebook asks, does Asa have a son who works for a Chinese company? Interesting question. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. I know we talked about this last hour, but the Babylon Bee has a fantastic satire piece out. That's all their website is, by the way, satire. But did you hear about this? Hillary Clinton accidentally posts condolences for Tulsi Gabbard's suicide one day early. Then deleted the tweet. Man, that's funny. Hey, when we come back, we're going to be talking with Citizens for a Better Pope County. Larry Walker is back with us, going to give us an update. A lot of stuff's happened since we talked to Larry. It's been about 2 weeks. And we also have your meme of the day coming up at the top of this next, at the 7:50 mark. We'll give you your meme of the day. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is Conduit News. We'll be back here in just a moment.
and fair trade, including tariffs, quotas, currency manipulation, forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and industrial subsidies that are handed out like candy to foreign investment.
We've been to Shandong province a number of times since I've been governor. We've called on people, and Chairman Chu gave us the opportunity to meet with him at Ruyi, at their technology group there in Shandong, and saw his incredible facility. We asked him to visit Arkansas. He did. So Chairman Chu, we're delighted to have you here. I'm excited about signing this agreement with you, and I welcome you to Arkansas.
These policies have built Beijing's manufacturing base at the expense of its competitors, especially the United States of America.
And I wanted to recognize Chairman Li to my right, who is the founder of Sun Paper of Shandong province in China. I also want to recognize Secretary Ma of Shandong province.
As President Trump said just this week, in his words, we rebuilt China over the last 25 years.
Last November, as you know, I traveled to Shandong province. I met with Chairman Li. I toured Sun Paper Company along with Mike Preston. While in China, we signed a letter of intent on behalf of the state of Arkansas with Sun Paper, indicating that Sun Paper wanted to put a major bioproducts mill in South Arkansas, in Arkansas.
The Communist Party has set its sights on controlling 90% of the world's most advanced industries, including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Li and I met yesterday. Chairman Li indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China. It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms to gain ownership of their creations. Worst of all,
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. I want to bring back in with us, we got Larry Walker from Citizens for a Better Pope County. Larry, how's it going this morning?
Doing all right, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I covered what happened at the Quorum Court in Pope County a few days ago. They tried to overturn the ordinance that is now, right now, subject of, judicial proceedings, and they failed. So, can you believe they actually tried to undo the ordinance that would have required a vote?
Not at all. I mean, it's astounding, honestly. They to try and do what 70% of the population voted in just back last November, and then they went ahead and violated that in August, and now they're being sued over it. So their goal is to they think that by repealing it, somehow it undoes the litigation. Which to me is just crazy.
Why not? I mean, I know they had a lawyer testify. I read that in the article, and he said that it's unconstitutional and that the ordinance doesn't supersede what is now the constitutional amendment requiring a casino. I'm just thinking, well, why not? Well, let's not take this lawyer's opinion. Why not we just let the judge decide? Because that's what's going on right now.
Absolutely. If they go ahead and move forward with what they're trying to do, because he's mentioned bringing it back on an agenda. Actually, he said at the first of the meeting he plans on it being on there every month. If it just doesn't make sense for them to do that. It is an opinion that they're getting, but there's opinions on both sides. And if they do what they're talking about doing, the result for them eventually, if they tried to do this and say they were successful, is that it would never go through litigation. It would never go through a court, and 70% of your population would always wonder, what if? Why? Why was this imposed on us without us ever having a say when we voted on it? And that's how it should have been. We voted. It's a democracy, and we should have had a say in it. We never had a chance because a few select people went in here and took that right away from us.
Talk about this group, Pope County Majority. They claim they're the majority because that's it's in their name. That they're the majority. They're pro-casino, Pope County Majority, but yet they were speaking out against a vote where we could actually see if their name of the organization is actually true. Because personally, I think they're actually the minority. I think they should rename their organization Pope County Minority.
Well, I'd probably agree with that, Paul. I would probably agree with it. I think I do definitely think if there's a vote, you're going to see similar to numbers that you had back last November. We see it all the time. The silent majority that is the true majority. They voted back in November, and they spoke. And I'll be honest, I've spoken with several of these JPs in the last little bit, and they have by far outweighed our voice. The true majority has far outweighed the voice of the other when it comes to speaking with these guys, talking with them, and you can say a lot of stuff on Facebook. Let's just say that.
Yeah. What was the goal? Remind me of the percentage breakdown of when Pope County voted for Amendment 100 or against Amendment 100. What was the shakedown?
Yeah, it was 60% was against Amendment 100, and 70% was in favor of the local ordinance.
And so, for those of you who don't know, that's a statistic that's irrelevant in terms of whether or not Amendment 100 passed or not, because it was a statewide vote, and the rest of the state voted to put a casino in Pope County's backyard. But they also voted on an ordinance that would require a separate vote, to decide whether or not it happens, whether or not the county officials can go forward and recommend something to the Racing Commission. And so, that's my point. Is this organization, Pope County Majority? It's really, it borderlines on propaganda, because if 60% of the county voted against having a casino, I don't know how they can claim that they're now the majority when we could just find out by having another election.
Absolutely. And that's what there have been a lot of folks say that Citizens for Better Pope County is anti-casino. And I'll be honest, personally, I am. But there's a lot of people in that group that aren't necessarily anti-casino. But what they are is they are for the local voice of the voter, and that's why I think in that number you see the breakdown of the 60% were against Amendment 100, which I believe is a true representation of Pope County. Pope County is maybe one of the most conservative counties in the state, and so they 60%, and you had 70% that wanted local control. So there's a 10% gap there, and of that population. So you're looking at about 10% that would have voted for the ordinance that are probably pro-casino.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is we don't think it's right for the state of Arkansas, whether we want a casino or not, we don't think it's right for the rest of Arkansas to impose this on Pope County. And that's what that group was about in creating that ordinance, was about, man, whether you're for it or against it, Pope County deserves a local say. We don't deserve to have this imposed upon us by the rest of Arkansas.
We're talking with Larry Walker, Citizens for a Better Pope County. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, if you guys have a vote and the people come out and they vote to have a casino, well, then okay. That's the way our democratic process works. That's the whole point, why you have elections. I kind of fear that there's some people, though, that just want to get this thing through because of the money. They don't really care if the majority are against it. They're seeing this money potential come through. And, you know, I see this a lot at the state level. You have people that run for office on promises, and then when they get into office, they don't talk to the people as much. Instead, they're talking to people that are asking them to do, every single day, they're asking them to do the opposite of what they campaigned to do. And, you know, that's part of the human condition. That wears on somebody. And eventually you start to figure out a way to justify going back on what you told the people you were going to do. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, I think we're seeing that here, because you can go back and you can look at what some people said when they were running for office about this specific issue of a casino, and now, you know, they're kind of, I don't know, flip-flopping on it, aren't they?
Well, I'll be honest, when you say some, I don't know of any of our officials that ran on a pro-casino stance when they ran for office. I haven't found any of them that ran on that stance. So there might have been some that were just silent on the issue, but nearly all of them were an anti-casino stance when they ran, and because that's 60% of their population. That's what they knew. That's what their population was going for, and so. And I think you saw it in the mayoral election when it came down to the incumbent mayor that was there, and then you had the one that is now the mayor. That vote went 60-40 when they ran when they had that election runoff, and the former mayor had expressed a desire to support casinos, and the incoming mayor said, "I'm not signing a letter." And what did you have? You had a 60-40 vote, which matched right up in line with the 60-40 vote from the state constitution. So it's been pretty evident in the numbers in all the elections that we've had.
Did you see this piece in the Dallas Morning News? This was news to me. The headline, "Why Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys planned Arkansas casino could be delayed by lawsuits and conflict of interest." I didn't know this, but apparently the Cherokee Nation is utilizing Jerry Jones in some way to kind of push this thing through. Have you heard that?
So the Cherokee Casino is partnered with Jerry Jones. He's and that's where it's called Legends. I'm not exactly sure how that all works together. I just know he is partnered together with them as part of this. Yeah, and that's that's been out for a few months in some different outlets, and I don't know exactly what that relationship looks like. But yeah, that's out there.
Well, I guess I'm just behind the eight ball on that. I just didn't know. I didn't know Jerry Jones was involved. Obviously, he's got deep Arkansas connections. But yeah, the Dallas Morning News reporting 12 hours ago, that it's probably, it's looking like it is going to be delayed. Conflict of interest claims, lawsuits. What can you tell us about the lawsuits right now? I know Citizens for a Better Pope County, you guys are engaged in this. I mean, where are we right now with that? Are we still in a waiting period?
Yeah, we've got a hearing next Tuesday. Again, it's a more procedural type hearing. And so the merits of the case, I don't believe are going to be heard next Tuesday as well. But after this, I believe this is the last procedural type motion. So once this is passed, then the judge will probably schedule a hearing for the merits of the case at that point. And the Racing Commission met, I guess that was last week, and they decided to put things on hold from their end until at least the circuit level courts have made their decisions. And then I believe the way they made their motion there was essentially we're going to wait until the circuit level courts make their decision, and then at that point we'll reevaluate based upon the appeals that are made if we're going to prolong our decision regarding the license.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think this is very interesting. Now, what about Pope County Quorum Court? You say they're going to put this back on the agenda for next month, so they may once again try to end the litigation, or by repealing the ordinance. Address that, and then also address the Racing Commission. They have indicated that they agree with State Representative Joe Cloud we don't want to do anything until the litigation's over. We don't want to issue any sort of license until the courts have a say in the matter, right?
Right. And I think that's all they could do. I think that's what they knew that if they did not want to move forward, because not only do you have our litigation, you have Gulfside's litigation out there too, the other casino involved that claims they have a valid application that is not being looked at. And so there's several pieces of litigation out there, and the last thing I think the Racing Commission wants to do is to issue a license, and then a court come back and say something different,
right?
And then them have to undo so they're just putting the brakes on a little bit, and I think that's wise of them to do that. Regarding our local county, the quorum court here, the judge did make that statement when he opened it up. I thought it was really interesting how he opened the meeting with that because there was a large crowd, and he just said, there's likely not to even be any action tonight, which I found that interesting because there were two justices that were not there. One that voted on our side in April or in August, and then one that did not in August. And so it would indicate that he thought he might not have votes there again. And so he makes that statement that we that we may not even have action tonight. And if we don't, then you may see this come up every month on the agenda. And I just thought that was a really interesting piece. Well, and because this is part of,
including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Lee and I met yesterday. Chairman Lee indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China. It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms to gain ownership of their creations. Worst of all, Chinese security agencies have masterminded the wholesale theft of American technology, including cutting-edge military blueprints. And using that stolen technology, the Chinese Communist Party is turning plowshares into swords on a massive scale.
Well, thank you all for joining us via Skype from Beijing this morning. Here in Beijing, it is 10 p.m. in the evening. I've had a very successful trip to China.
China now spends as much on its military as the rest of Asia combined. And Beijing has prioritized capabilities to erode America's military advantages on land, at sea, in the air, and in space.
I've spoken at Tsinghua University here in Beijing, which was a treat for me to speak with young Chinese students about Arkansas, and also to talk about the relationship between China and the United States.
China wants nothing less than to push the United States of America from the Western Pacific and attempt to prevent us from coming to the aid of our allies. But they will fail. Beijing is also using its power like never before. Chinese ships routinely patrol around the Senkaku Islands, which are administered by Japan. And while China's leader stood in the Rose Garden at the White House in 2015 and said that his country had, and I quote, no intention to militarize the South China Sea. Today, Beijing has deployed advanced anti-ship and anti-air missiles atop an archipelago of military bases constructed on artificial islands. China's